some of our international viewers too. Doggy had an interview. The owner, right? I don't know if he's part owner or whole owner of this, but he did mention that he even told the team, like, hey, you know, we want to get to the playoffs. We want to get some things happening here because if things don't continue to work out for them, you know, they place towards the end, they might have to wrap things up here. But first pick, it's already Fredrin.
Yeah, and Fredrin still the king of the jungle right now in this current metagame. And Onic, as expected, they're actually going to be rolling with the Roger right away. They get the Valentina. Now, Mnne EVOS picking up what could be one of the strongest, if not the strongest, gold laner right now, Harith. So many times so far, playing in RG and all that, I've been whooped by a Harith with a vengeance. Because of the changes of his animation, he deals damage a little bit more. He no longer has that thing where he gets more shields. Depending on how many enemy heroes there are around him, he just gets a flat value, but it's a good amount of value that Hariths now are so aggressive and they hurt.
Okay, I'm going to put that in mind because maybe this is what Mnne EVOS sees, even how Helihaze sees this. Because again, the highest DTPM after week 5 is leaning towards Mnne EVOS. A bit of a difference with Omega and TNC, but it's still sticking with the same thing. But for this Harith, we are looking for more exciting things. But the chip Renmar.
Yep, and good to see that Onic PH decided to pick it up. Of all the teams that would shine theoretically with the chip would be Onic. They haven't showed it up this pick yet this season, so it's good to see how Onic will decide to play it. Because once Chip was released, people were saying Onic are really going to shine with it. Now, looking at the bans, they decided to take away the Angela, because Angela and Harith also has been a terrifying combo, and just Angela in general has been doing great. In terms of what else Onic PH needs, Mnne EVOS are going to be banning out EXP laners and junglers, but I'm not fully turning off the idea of this Roger potentially going into the jungle. The thing is, against the Fred, Onic might do better with the barracks that Mnne EVOS just took away.
Ooh. Okay, you just mentioning about there's so much change from the emblems of the Brave Smite, and that benefits Barrett's most of his combos in the game. So once we see how Onic is developing, how this draft is going to go, he's taking out the CC, even for the Angela. I know in Infinite's Keys to Victory, we were pushing like, hey, pick up some assassin picks, but it seems like there's something that they still want to do that they haven't been done in the past weeks.
Well, even so, again, flexibility can still happen here with the Roger, so that might be what's they're holding up their sleeve for now for Onic. We'll see what this last ban wants to be. Now, given the fact that you see the Fredrin here, you most likely are going to want to be able to pair up with that match for match. But because you have this chip on your lineup, and hey, we heard what even Echo had to say about the pick that came through with chip. It can change the course of any of these games that go through. The Grok is going to be taken out here. So this is the question. What does Onic want to roll with this next pick?
They can still go with Boxer in the jungle if this Roger's actually going to the gold lane. Then if they're going to go Boxer in the jungle, chip, they had okay front line, but nope, it's Terizla first. So Gem's signature Terizla pick that so far this season still undefeated 6-0.
And the EXP laners I think we have a growing list with a patch right now, and actually could still be good in the laning.
Bro, Paquito's so good, but Mnne EVOS, surprising enough, still rolling with a Ruby. They reduced her spell vamp, actually.
Oh, okay. So we're seeing something that they see better with this pick, with this Ruby. So as far as the last pick goes, we have the gold lane, we have the EXP. Something could still be worth is what would be the possible role for this Fredrin, because it still could change.
I think it's still going to be going into the jungle, though. It's just the best jungler pick right now by far. Not one of the best. He's not the absolute best. EXP laner, let's see if they're going to go something like a Paquito. Export sort of really fell out. But no, it's a Yuzong. They're doing the other idea against a Valentina where you're going to overload the Valentina with choices in terms of what to get with the IMU ultimate. And then at the same time, the Petrify, because everyone from Onic just wants to dive in close. Onic, wow, I didn't see this coming. Phoveus is going to be going into Gem's hands in the EXP lane.
It's really just going to help with the Herald.
No,
sorry.
It's Kelras.
It's the gold lane Phoveus for Keller and Jungle Roger. So the theory we had earlier was right.
Okay.
I'm excited to see King Kong with Roger in the jungle at least. But I think the sentiment is still shared. Like, how is that going to pair up against a Fredrin who dominates the jungle? That's where I really want to see that unfold. But also, Kelra on the Phoveus here in the gold lane.
Yeah, with things that we miss seeing, and the audience prediction is leaning towards Onic. What do you think, chat? Comment down below. What do you think about this draft with hashtag Onic, with hashtag Mnne. We're looking at the lineup rating, and it seems like there's some few points, but going back to this point about Super Prince, having Valentine on his hands, it's like overload. Whose ultimate you're gonna pick?
And then at the same time, for the side of Onic PH, yes, their overall rating seems to be lower going into this, but I like that their lineup is actually quite, how do I call this? It's a dishonest team fight. Because it can be scrappy. You don't know what angle they're going to be coming from, how Kelra jumping on everyone's going to change the picture of a team fight. It's going to be fun to watch Onic PH fight. It's also going to be fun to see how Mnne EVOS is going to deal with it.
Let's see how they're going to deal with this, because it's game number 1, and we're looking at excitement on how this patch is going to go. Because when was the last time we see Keller Rock in this Phobius? And looking back on the composition of Mnne EVOS right now, we're seeing dashes from Ruby and the Harith. So when was the last time we saw this from his hand?
Ooh, Kelra with the Phobius?
Phobius, man.
Gold lane?
Can't recall.
I can't recall.
I don't know why. A part of me says maybe 11 or 12 he played it once in the gold, but I could be misremembering it with someone else.
Yeah, that's such a, I mean, it's such an unorthodox pick. So let's just put it that way. Phobius alone is already kind of a surprise, but then you put him in the gold lane. And again, it could just be a good way to deal with this Harith. Like Renmar already mentioned, the Harith, for some reason, same experience, man. They've been dominating in the game since the patch, and it just feels not so good to play against right now. So we'll see how this Phobius fares. But I think even aside from that, the whole dishonest lineup, in a way, it's like, okay, it's a little finicky. It's a little, the fact, too, that they just have a chip.
Yeah.
Even cap, that puts it as caps. Like, this is dishonest in caps letters. Yeah. Because you don't know. And the thing is so far from what we've seen when Chip pops that ultimate, everybody arrives when they want to. This lineup alone is also very chaotic when you force them into a fight. So that's the other thing. And I think one of the hard parts, like that was mentioned earlier, is what ultimate are you really going to try to prioritize here? You're going to try to take from Mnne's teams. You have actually some pretty good options and step potentials as well. Yep. So that's the main thing here. And like we said, Gem on the Trizla, man, he has had a hell of a season on this hero alone. So we'll see how they all kind of round this dishonest lineup out.
Yeah, with a chip, I think the only team, well, before the patch, it was just Omega having his debut pick with his chip. Like how the problem is, I think the main problem having a chip in your composition is how do you manage to end the game? Yes, you can risk a winning player or whatever play you want to do with this chip, but it's the closing issue that you want to deal with this composition.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could do like what Todak in Malaysia did with Rafflesia, just spawning his entire team into the base with a split push and to take their opponents off guard. But yeah, that's actually a really good question, because once you see a chip in objective team fights, you know what that chip is waiting for. You're waiting for the chip portal to get dropped down and react immediately to the chip's teammates showing up into a fight, suddenly make it 5v5 or 5v4, depending on the positioning of your EXP laner or mid laner at that time. Going back to the question of which ultimate, I think the Valentina might actually want to consider getting the ultimate of the Ruby from time to time. Yep. Most importantly, because those pullbacks will activate the ultimate for the Phobius. So another like proc for the jump. Yeah. Yep.
It's good to see just like how this match will gonna go, because if we're looking at the draft again, by gauging other player head to head, the gold laners has been an essential ingredient. Again, looking back on that MSC possibility of a what if, it's the gold lane. The players, Doming and Kelra, having a bit of an advantage on KDA, but in terms of like getting the fights and having the way of using the nades and the carries on this, there's a similarity. But the difference is Kelra is sometimes leaning towards the fighter choices against the common marksman choices.
It's funny because with Kelra, and for some of those that maybe don't know the moniker the Filipino Savage, the way that he plays in the gold lane, or some like to use the gold standard here, you have to watch him, and that's why I want to know, with the Phobius in his hands, is he still going to replicate that playstyle that we're so used to seeing Kelra use and utilize to win some of these lanes and the matchups? Because that's the thing. He's the type of gold lane you can actually leave alone, and sometimes more often than not, actually, he'll get a solo kill. Yeah. And so the thing is Phobius being one of those heroes where if you do get this kind of like early snowball, even in your lane alone, even though it's a Harith or whatever, you're going to have trouble. And he's going to continue to snowball really well if he can get an early kill. Otherwise, then Kelra kind of just has to adjust his playstyle. And that's where, when we were talking about character development last week on broadcast, where I think Kelra has really grown as a player himself, right? He is, yes, this gold standard, this Filipino savage and everything else, but he's adapted. So if he has to kind of not play that intense, aggressive in the gold lane, he can actually adjust to this. And I think the Phoveus, once again, he's got those two options still. Do I play a little aggressive? Do I play this advantage that I'm going to be proccing like crazy when I pop the Demonic Force? Or do I set back a little bit and be more of that front line here for the rest of this lineup?
Yep. And speaking of lineup, we're focusing on the EXP lanes, Kirk and Gem. Oh man, we've been seeing how Gem is not a hidden gem of Onic Philippines. He has been doing a lot of plays with this Terizla.
Yeah.
And benefiting from the patch, I count Edith, Terizla, and Paquito. You've mentioned it earlier, and Paquito was even open for Mnne EVOS to be taken. But how is this for the patch? Like, I don't want to spoil everybody who's watching this, especially now with the new adjustment going, but a bit of a thing to note or to look forward to this Terizla. What could be the possible scenarios for this?
I think because of the changes to the physical defense, the items and all that, the growth as well, because of the Body of Smith passive of the Terizla, he might be the tankiest EXP laner you can go for now. What? One of the most difficult to take down. And at the same time, EXP laners now have to play a little bit more calculated, just a little bit more careful, because they won't be able to buy time as much as possible compared to what they were used to doing, especially in the mid to the late game once it goes on. So for a player such as, let's focus on Gem, he's always been the, I'm going to make the most out of my entry type of player. Great timing. Just when you're wondering, where the hell is Gem? And then suddenly he comes in with a perfect setup to close off the exit of the opposing team, and then Onic PH wins a team fight, and solidly wins a team fight because Gem blocked the way of Onic PH's opponents. Meanwhile, Kirk, he's more of the similar playstyle to Naths, to Edward, Flap Teasy, that aggression that I'm going to go ahead and try to take you down type of mentality as an EXP laner. So I think this would benefit Gem a bit more, while for Kirk, just has to be a little bit more careful.
And XP Lates has been the playmaking roles or the players of each team. And to mention about, you've mentioned about Kirk and Nats, I'm just thinking about Arlet. And for this, it has been like a different adjustment, but still, I think Arlet, even for Dispatch, can still even work, don't you think? Regardless of how they still manage to change things around with this patch.
What do you mean?
With the Arlet.
The Arlot?
Yeah, so something...
Well, I mean, you saw it was banned out by Mnne EVOS.
Yeah.
He's still going to be one of the top picks that you can go for here, considering that a lot of heroes are a little bit more squishier now. That would greatly benefit an Arlot in this current metagame. One thing I want to go back to, though, is the fact that Yu Zhong was picked up here by Kirk. So, even though I did mention that he should be a little bit more careful, which is true, at the same time, it's going to be rewarding for him if he decides to be aggressive. That full-on combo that he can dish out, because, well, he'll be able to dish out way more damage now. Not because of Yu Zhong getting buffed, but again, because of the other adjustments to everyone else being a little bit less squishier.
I guess that's one thing I've in my own time playing, you know, is trying to figure out how much did the patch, even when it comes to items, because I know some of the items, the costing or let's say the build paths were adjusted as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm wondering how much of that will change or play an effect, because we know some teams, some heroes, you know, they like to pick up first items, sometimes will rush one. I'm wondering what kind of changes that will happen, you know, throughout we get through the week here. So that's one thing. There's so many factors here that can change as we go along.
Let's see how the patch now will affect this game, because it's game number 1 on the first day of week number 6. Let's see how this goes. Looking at this, Escalera's on the chip. They have more coverage, but now let's see how this game goes with Mnne EVOS with their composition.
Yeah. Main difference with Perk Ziva and Spider Miles, the two roamers of Mnne EVOS, is that Perk Ziva is more of the traditional type of roamer. Setups, pick-offs, Chos, Kufras, Kajas, and Rubies. So expect Mnne EVOS' playstyle to change up a little bit more now that it's a different flavor in the roam and mid for Haze.
Well, speaking of the mid and the roam, Escalera, oh, he's just manning up to Kaizen and Perk Ziva with this.
Yeah.
Okay, is he going to be able to get away? Okay, he has to flicker out. That's going to be burned. but trying to be a nuisance here the best he can. The other thing, too, is obviously Kaizen this time did go with that support emblem. We've seen the changes here that Fredrin likes to go with, the adaptability, but even first item-wise, you can see some of the rushing already happening.
Yeah, and you see there just how quickly the Synchro Fission animation comes out there. Perxiva?
Oh, look at that Escalera.
Yeah.
Just went on to his portal and just opens up. Look at how the coverage goes with this chip, man. I mean, having the passive of the region of chips, he can freely roam as much as he wants to.
Yep, the Y-Walk special skill cooldown was reduced from 40 seconds to 20 seconds now. So a lot more room for him to just keep going around on those beacons.
Just imagine that, having a great amount of vision, coverage, and the first objective is up. Regardless on where Onic's priority in the laning is, having the chip on their own composition just gives him like the opportunity to like, okay, just check on the turtle, check on the objective, and let's come from there.
Nice little setup
Meanwhile,
from Kirk.
EXP.
Okay, so all before the turtle. Gem gonna jump in though. Kirk could be in trouble here. Dragon forms out of there, survives with an HP. Oh no! Gem gets him. So first blood drawn here from Gem. Now for the fight for the turtle. Eternal Guard already gonna be dropped down. Two versions of them at that. Kaizen's gonna be able to get the turtle. The fight's gonna break out though. Perxiva trying to bear. Kaizen can't get out. Kelra will get that kill. So Onic doing some trading here, but happy to be on the board.
Wow, okay, so you saw there the power of the chip on the side of Onic. And Onic with a little bit of adjustment on their decision making there. Yes, King Kong tried to go for the Retribution battle win, but Onic readjusted their positioning and entry so that they can go for the counter punish if ever Onic would lose that turtle fight.
Well, it's hammer time for Gem. He holds a 100% win rate as the Terizla in 6 games. Wow. Clean.
He is the body of Smith.
Yeah.
The body of Gem.
He embodies it perfectly for Onic. Onic Philippines, having that game playing capability of the Terizla changed a lot of the dynamics, especially with this. Oh, Escalera receiving a lot of fun. That is the Harith that you're talking about, Renmar.
Yep. Power of the changes to the Harith, man. It hurts. But I like these adjustments by Mnne EVOS, so from time to time they're doing what they can to get a bit of resources away from King Kong.
That's what they kind of got to do, right? Set the pace if they can here. Onic, even with a couple kills they have, economically it's still pretty even. So Kaizen showing it this side of the jungle. Now Perxiva going to get dragged. Has to flicker out. Gem not going to land the connection he was looking for. But on the backside, Kirk going to go find the target with the Petrify. Super Friend's going to be in trouble. Gem's going to the one to fall, though. Meanwhile, another kill brought on through, and that's Escalera falling as well. King Kong on the run. So Mnne EVOS striking fast here.
What an ultimate counter up against this chip. They waited for them to react right away, and they completely turned everything around for Onic Philippines. They waited to overload them from the moment they started that portal.
Yeah, Mnne EVOS, good decision to fight that out. Once they saw Onic, especially Gem, missed the penalty zone, and Onic already used a good amount of their ability. Super Friends already used the ultimate of the Ruby that he stole away. Good decision to fight it out. Again, this is what you get when you have Fredrin in the jungle. Those little moments where if that was an assassin jungle, I don't think Mnne EVOS would have taken that fight. Since they're rocking with a Fredrin, hell yeah, you're going to take that fight.
Still the guy. Yeah, he sees himself still a worthy pick of this. Kaizen, the Fredrin up just on time with that purple to show up. And this is the problem now. If they keep on answering to those teams, if Chip or Escalera spots a position for Mnne EVOS to even take against them, they actually still can wait because there's an open window to actually counter everything out on Onic Philippines. And you were mentioning about the overload of the ultimates that Valentina can do. I think Mnne is slowly getting the pattern here on how they can overload Onic Philippines.
Yeah, and we talked about it earlier. When you're going up against a chip, it's dishonest, but then at the same time, the objective fights, you know what's going to happen. You know what you're waiting for there. So Mnne EVOS are just adjusting their positioning in the team fights just a little bit.
I think that's why it's so important, too, for Kirk. King Kong going to get hooked down a little bit here, but for Kirk, a lot of his entries, at least so far this early on, has been pretty good. So that'd be part of it. And now we're at this stalemate.
Yep.
That's a Necklace of Durance, a priority build by Super Friends.
Meanwhile, they're trying to force out something from Escalera.
He rushed that the first item.
Yeah.
Picked that up.
I think he realized like the lineup that he's up against. Yeah, they're really tanky, guys. We need to lower their regen and their healing just a little bit. I'm not knocking it. I am quite surprised though, because usually we'd see a more painful or higher damage dealing item, magic power item there as your first build.
I think that's one thing they want to capitalize on, since they have so much like advantage on poke, catch, even penalty zones. So this is the problem if they want to go up against with Onic Philippines, or even Onic wants to bounce back from this, because I think that those are the moments that they need to be careful of, just in case somebody gets forced out, especially with the huge objective. We're seeing 2 Purifies from Super Fritz and Kelra because of the crowd control threat that they can get from Perxiva and as well as for Kirk. You've mentioned about this Aerith. You know, hold that.
Escalera, there's the shortcut. Everybody going to be able to show up for this one. But Escalera does fall. Perxiva, the next target, as Calro's able to get him now. Under the turret they go as Hayes falls as well. But King Kong's taken out. It's still going to be a bloodbath around the purple buff. Trying to get out with their lives, but it's too much. Kelra jumping in, but he will fall with Super Fritz next, and Kirk able to survive it all.
Mnne EVOS, again, you just wait for the chip portal. Onic, it looked really good for them as Hayes fell down. I was wondering, why is Kirk spending so much time just flying in the air? But he eventually made the most of a good petrified combo, and he was one of the last ones standing there. Meanwhile, as all of that was happening, Mnne EVOS' Doming was split pushing in the bottom lane. So that's a massive win for Mnne EVOS all throughout. I just have to say, again, this is the power that you get with Fredrin in the jungle with your team.
Yeah, referencing the gold right now, it's slowly being painted as blue. Now with the waves and the push, Mnne EVOS, it's slowly they're trying to gain control of the macro play, but hold that, portal open!
Escalera taking quite a bit of damage, will flicker out. Doming though goes in with his own, and now looking for more into the Zaman Force Gem. Can't withstand the damage, it's a double.
You can be way more aggressive now as a Harith, and look what that man did. Flicker forward, and then just Synchro Fission full-on Zaman Force combo. That's only 2 items on this Harith right now. Almost a 2,000 gold lead over Kelra! Kaizen, my god!
The bonk.
We got bonked.
It's, hey, Fredrin, nothing changes. It's still going to be priority.
Yeah, there's 3 sure things in life. Death, taxes, and Fredrin's position in the MLBB meta.
A thing to worry about. Right on point, but as Onic looking for a way to get objectives, King Kong slowly wanted to push up top, but this is the problem now with this kind of taunt, with the kind of stacks that Mnne EVOS is doing up against Onic Philippines. They're completely overloading anything up against them right now. And this is the problem. They're putting him in a situation that they need to gather around for objectives and as well as pushes, but this is the problem with having Kirk as well. They have so much control with micro plays against Onic Philippines too.
Yeah, and again, if you just look at the principle here, it's a full dive comp on the side of Onic versus a comp from Mnne EVOS that, as much as possible, would try to protect one, which is Hayes' Vexana, and as Kaizen actually stealing an orange buff away from Onic there. Again, look at the gold difference between the Phoveus and the Harith. Onic's going to be playing defense for a very long time here. The problem is their wave clear, very risky.
Yeah, I think it's the commitment that this composition can do up against Mnne EVOS. With the lead that they have right now, they would be forced to take some small risky plays such as this.
Escalera not going to see the light of day here, taken out in an instant. Going to get cut off. He saw the dragon. He's like, you know what? I'm done for. So down a member. This is a clear green signal for Mnne EVOS to take this first Lord here uncontested.
Another objective freely taken by Mnne EVOS. Despite of what's happening against Onic Philippines right now, the commitment that they want to do, they still need to be input on how to counter even Mnne EVOS. Who are you actually going to target here? Doming has got any non-deaths as of this moment, even for Kaizen. Yeah. So this is a big of a problem. How to even maintain or sustain the front line of Mnne EVOS for Onic Philippines.
It's tough, really, that even if you get Hayes or Doming down, you still have another damage option available. Appraiser's Wrath is also up there to swing fights for Mnne EVOS. Kirk on the Yuzong being able to deal the damage that he did. It's just that Yuzong last pick, dare I say, really helped Mnne EVOS win this draft out. Because now, with the timing, especially of Kirk, maximizing what he can get from the Petrify, the combos that he can dish out, Onic don't have the damage to take key targets down fast enough.
That's the question. How can they get a key target out of Banana EVOS? Lord is being pushed down bottom. They want to take this turret out of Onic Philippines' hands. Everybody's maintaining safe distance. The threat of Brixiva right now, and everybody of Banana EVO's lead that they have, they're just sweeping everything clean out of Onic Philippines' camp. And this is the problem. How can even King Kong bounce back from this, despite having the coverage of the map with the presence of the chip? Now the real-time win rate is leading towards Banana EVOS.
This, for me, has to be one of the cleaner games we've seen from Banana EVOS.
Yeah.
Everything has really fallen into place here, and that early execution that they pulled this lineup off just played perfectly and allowed them to get to this point where they're now 7,000 gold ahead against Onic, who has, again, we've been touting them as the super family, the super team of this season so far. They're struggling here. And maybe that was, okay, you know what? Maybe it's the matchup in the jungle. It makes things a little bit tough because King Kong can't really have the space that he wants to work around against a Fredrin. And they just aren't able to really utilize even the chip because, hey, you pop the shortcut, everybody shows up. You're pretty much into a economic loss. The firepower just is not there. So for Onic, it's really now about time. It's the whole thing once again with Onic time. They need time here. They need 5+ minutes at that to withstand this game, and we'll see if Banana EVOS even lets them. By the time this next Lord push comes through, if they secure it in 30 seconds, it might be better if Onic just lets them take it. I don't think even if they try to contest it, they would win that battle at all here.
Yeah, honestly, sometimes in life, it's okay to just let others take what's not meant for you.
Yes.
I think that's
Right?
true.
Right.
That's really
That's
true.
life advice.
Because if you like fight for something way too hard that you know that isn't for you at that moment, then you're just gonna get like
This is a whole new Renmar.
I know.
I'm loving it. Like,
I've grown.
You've grown.
Yeah.
I think that's the destiny that Onic wants to see. Like, will they commit and will they even to accept the fate of just winning or losing? Because if they can have time on their side, if they have the ultimate of the Ruby, they have Gem with the penalty zone. The question is, where can they land this? Because I think Escalera right now is being cautious on where to even have a good placement of the portal.
Well, let's see. Can see.
Perciva.
Perks
Oh,
not
he
going to be able to land it.
flickered.
Oh, brother.
Gem going to jump in with the penalty zone, and now Escalera on the backside, pushing him further. Gem's still going to be alive for a little bit longer, but finally taken out. Kelra jumps in with a demonic force of fighting in the Zaman forest. It's a force for force battle as Super Prince falls, and no one can keep going but Domang and the rest of Banana EVOS. And now King Kong, left alone in his jungle, retreats against a full force of Banana EVOS. And left alone, Domang jumps in once again, takes him down, and that will be game number 1 going over to Banana EVOS.
A dominating start for the debut of Hayes and Perciva. Having the chance against Onic Philippines, Banana EVOS. Woo!
Harith, baby. Harith. That Harith did not